I would like to welcome everybody on the world first Nx Meetup organized by PushBased and by Nx officially. We will have today great speakers, myself, CEO of the PushBased Michael Klatki, and our main Nx architect Jarek. Thank you, thank you. So that was actually the introduction section, but also have some questions. Does everybody from here ever use Nx? If you use Nx, please raise your hands. All right. So there are a couple of people that never use it, so I'm happy because I have introductory section that's really basic, but I hope you will find some new stuff about the Nx. So this is our agenda. I will come a little bit earlier than 11:15 because straight after the introduction I will jump into my talk. So we will have three great talks. First will be mine, from chaos to predictability. I will show you how difficult it is to actually maintain monorepo without Nx. And then we have deep dive talks. First is coming from Michael Klatki about the Nx caching. This is very advanced topic. And then a Jarek talk about the Nx graph. I'm really looking forward to this talk, Jarek, what you will show to us. So we are coming back to my talk, sorry. Let me change the slides. I have them already prepared, so this should be straightforward. I'm so glad that everything is working, and because of my tradition, let me take a mana potion. Okay, I'm better. So, as I said, from chaos to predictability, I will show you how Nx is helping us to control the mess it coming in the mono repo. Something about myself, I'm working with Angular from the version 8. I did try it first time at the version when it was called Angular.js. So let's say the version 1, I did not like it. Then I was doing a lot of Java development until they tell me, Adrian, you are now a front-end developer. I say, why? Because we don't have any. I say, okay, but you know, I'm not really a fan of front-end. This is not really programming. And they say, no, Adrian, we will show you RxJS and Angular. You will love it. This shit is crazy. I know that you like crazy stuff. And RxJS almost killed me. I was learning this stuff for so long. And when I finally master it, the signals come. So yes. But in my project, in this time, I got Angular 9. So they come, but not to my ex-company. What I love the most from the front end is, of course, the Nx component-driven development in Storybook. This actually makes sense if you are doing design systems or you want to make very modular components in Angular. Accessibility and performance. This is like the professional me. I have also my private site that some of you may know. Before joining to IT, I was playing a lot of video games, mostly World of Warcraft. So this is like me in the final form, 104 kilograms. I was playing until the Shadowlands. Then I have met my wife and the times changed. I'm still playing from time to time, but mostly on Nintendo Switch, Pokemon, and this kind of stuff. So let's say that I'm a little bit retired from gaming, and I'm putting all my effort at IT, speaking, and this kind of stuff. All right. So this, and my wife is somewhere in Wrocław. Coming back to the presentation, so Nx doesn't just expose the problems, because it will expose your problems, but it also gives you a tools to actually solve the problems, because Nx itself, it's not solving a problem for you. You have to put some manual labor. And the first problem I had when I need to jump into the front end was that every project was looking different. I needed a ton of time to understand what the hell is going on here and what they are doing. And before the TypeScript with JavaScript, that was even crazier. So no types for me, this is like the wild, wild west. I could never work in this kind of code base. What Nx does, every project is looking similar. We have apps. In apps, we have applications, obviously, and we have libraries. And the best thing about the libraries is that they are looking similar because of the Nx generators. So when I see the libs, I know what is inside. I don't have to expand the lib to know that we will have this kind of structure. So this is very neat, and it really reduces the time you need to jump into the new project. Another problem we have is that everyone is formatting the code differently. And this was triggering me so much that saying, okay, please use the single quotes, but I like the double quotes, and then you have them mix on the project. But this is only a small part of programming. We have people that are breaking line every 500 characters, or they never do. And also people that breaks every 40 characters. So then the code is looking very strange. And the Nx is coming with pre-configured prettier. So for this is like the default config. So you have the single quote config at the beginning, so you can fix it with one comment. If you want to extend the config, this is very simple, like put in a little of fields, and it's fixed. Cool. What else Nx is solving for us? Imagine yourself in a situation when you spend a couple of hours thinking and setting standards for your project or for your company or for your team. You are burning the client money. Then you leave the room, everybody is happy, okay, from today we will be applying those standards. But at the end, no one is even remembering about this meeting 1 week later. It's very hard to actually track them. So Nx can expose the problems with pre-configured linter that is coming with tons of like the most important rules. Of course, you can configure it to even have better rules or some plugins or community rules, and it will expose your problems. You still have to fix them. They are some small problems that you can fix by putting -- fix, but mostly there is some labor needed. But in the times of the AI, those kind of problems are easy to solve. You just make a prompt with a cursor and the agent will do this for you. But there is a little problem that even if you apply those standards, you have a linter, you still have one guy like this guy that will put TS ignore for your rules, and yeah, you can't do nothing about it. You just need to check it at code review. But this is much simpler, and you can deliver something for the business. So we have fixed 5% of the code base or 10% of the code base. We have those remaining. You can disable the rules. You can do anything you want with that. Later on, we have something that I'm calling, some people are calling shotgun surgery. So there is one thing, a new feature to implement. You have to change icon in the button at the bottom of the model. But then this model is using some builder, is importing and tons of stuff, and you fix just a small piece, and then everything is breaking in 6 or 8 places because all of them are using same interface, they are sharing functions, and you have spaghetti code. So instead of taking scalpel and just changing one thing, you are shooting with shotgun and just your application is exploding. So Nx can actually expose that problem with Nx graph. So as you can see, the spaghetti is not only a joke. You can see the spaghetti here. So this is MS. You can see it and you tell to your friend, look at this bad code you have created yesterday. The problem is exposed. Now, coming back to the tools, we have to think about the application like an onion or an ogre. So onions have layers and applications have also a layer. You can set more layers if you want. Those are the most classic. So coming from the left, this is the weakest layer. It can be imported by UI and data access. The layers on the same layer, sorry for, for that, can't import each other. Feature can import everything, etc. To visualize it even more, we can visualize the boundaries. So util can import util, data access util, and until the end. This will stop the shotgun surgery if it's done correctly. But okay, this is like something we made on the meeting. We still need to control it. So if you have a hurdur tech lead that say, okay, I will look at every code review and we will do that. You can do it, of course, but this will take time. One junior come to your company and just import, UI to HTTP because he needed one interface and the application exploded. But I just needed one interface, don't blame me. So for that, you need some optimization in the control. And how to do it? Firstly, we need to give data for a linter. We have to set correct paths. We need to set the tag in the project JSON. So this tag would be type UI. and every additional tag. And also we need to set the boundaries here. So same like we got on the midget, the app can import data access, UI, util, add feature, etc. And with those rules set it up, we got something to fix. We got tons of errors, and those are not your best friend errors. They are not so easy fixable with AI. You have to think to actually solve them. So you take your friends and you kill a predator. Without the spoilers, some of them survived, so I hope some of you will survive if you have to do this kind of stuff on legacy, like 10 years of application. And when you solve it, how does it look? Perfect. You are coming with your guys, you have everything layered down. Control. No more spaghetti. As you can see, this is detangled. We have same libraries, but no more cyclic dependencies. Cool. But then some worse error can come. We are at Friday, and QA have found a bug in payments. The people are paying 4 euros instead of 20, so we have to fix the bug. We are gathering developers, QAs, UI UX, even the manager is helping us to find that bug because we are losing money and someone will lose a job. Later on, 24 hours later, we found a bug. You have taken the function from the word from the bat library. Okay, now it's so simple, but actually finding that stuff when the code base is huge, it's pretty hard. How to control it? We have it layered down, but still the bug appears. First, before jumping to debugging, put an Nx graph, analyze it, see the problem. If you play a lot with Nx, we can clearly see that this is wrong. We are importing to the movies something from food. And there is where the error comes. But it is layered, it's actually looking nice. How can we solve it? We need a Gandalf. We have to put the Gandalf here, and the Gandalf will help us to set boundaries. We have to pass you shall not pass the domain boundaries. And this is very easy to set up. Actually, we have to add just another tag and another constraint. So the movies can import movies, food can import food. You can also make subdomains, but this is not domain-driven design. So if you put domains and you put some tags, you are not doing now domain-driven design. Some people claim that it does, but that is not true. When we solve it, this is good practice. This is actually not necessary, but it's good practice to put the prefix movies or prefix food in the imports. So then when you go to the component, you at the moment you see that this is wrong. We are in the food importing movies. It's helping. All right. So this is how does it look. We put our Gandalf on boundaries, and whenever you want to import something from here, then Gandalf will say to you, you shall not pass, you got an error, you can't depush, and we are good. Then we have some advanced topics, and those topics will be taken on by Michael and Jarek. So what happens? We make a small change. I change the variable name from, I don't know, name to first name, and we have to wait 30 minutes for application to build. This is really, really decreasing the developer experience and is frustrating as hell, and Nx have a solution for us. The incremental builds will run only the tasks that are affected. So if you change a small piece in library, it will rebuild only that piece. But for that, you need buildable libraries, well-maintained code base. So this is only the beginning. Then we have another problem. I'm coming back to the Monday at the work. Not very, let's say, optimistic. This is a Monday, 8 o'clock, and I have to wait 40 minutes for the first build because tech lead have merged hundreds of tasks at Saturday, so I have to wait. So this is frustrating as hell. My coffee is cold or either finished before this is compiled. And Nx is helping us here with something called distribute cache, so we can get an output of the build from the cloud that were done when we merged the pull request. So that is actually it from our, let's say, warm-up talk. And for me, the Nx is like salt. I will be not repeating the whole sentence from you, but when you try the food with salt, probably you don't want to come back to food without the salt. That's all. We have now 15 minutes of break.
Q&A.
Half. Yes, please.
Yeah, I have actually one, and it's like a really production use case. So like real use case. So besides just working full time, that's just a company. I have also one project that actually my friend is maintaining, and like we have a monorepo, but just basic monorepo with like 2 directories for backend and for frontend, just separate package JSONs, and that's all. Yeah, Node.js with Express on the backend, and not Angular but React on the frontend. Yeah. And
Yes.
okay, but Angular React could be you know, Svelte, whatever. Yeah. But okay, it's React actually there. Yeah. And I also actively thinking about enforcing some better developer experience standards. And yeah, based on your talk, it seems that Nx is definitely good for that. That you expose the problems that they can fix. But also, like before considering it, I think is it also okay if I don't know start using Nx to my project, improve my project, and then I thought that okay, maybe I don't need one more dependency. Is it also safe to remove it afterwards, or is it like a vendor lock-in and I need to use it forever? And also, could you compare it maybe to some other monorepo alternatives, like I've been using Lerna, there's also monorepo and npm yarn workspaces. So why Nx is the best, and is it really the best is the best choice for all?
It has the biggest tool set of all of them. Yeah. And it's easy to understand at the beginning. You don't need to learn a lot to actually understand the basics of Nx. If you want to do something more advanced, you can. There's much more stuff that I did not tell. You have generators, you have executors, have much more stuff inside. You want storybook in your project, cool, you have generator for that, and it's working like that. I remember times when I tried to learn storybook and I could not even start it. I put dependency, but it was not working. Then I put a generator from Nx and it's working. You want a React application in your Angular code base? Do it. Easy. We got you covered. No, not we, but the Nx team.
So it's not like it's Angular is preferred. It's like agnostic.
No. You can even go now with the Java Spring, like for a year.
Okay.
Our architect will be speaking about that. As I said, that was only a warm-up session to get you, ready for that. I was not expecting that every one of you did use Nx.
I did.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, not a problem. Yes. Yes.
What main signs you can highlight when you need to start using Nx in your project from your personal experience? How you can understand that you need to start using Nx in your project?
Play with it. Just create a small project.
I use Nx and modification, but I wanted to hear maybe you have some from your experience. What signs?
I was always just doing the projects and trying to overload them with libraries and with different executors, generators, some crazy stuff to actually understand what it can be done, and then do the best things I learned from home, let's say, on production, and see if it works or not. I'm not sure if this answers your question.
No. For example, you have already existing project, and how you can understand that this is a good time, this is time when you need to start using Nx, for example.
Yes, always it's a good time to start using Nx. Just do it, like a Nike. Just do it. It can't hurt you. It can only help you.
May I answer this question?
Yes.
It's a good time to start moving your project to Nx when you have Angular project which builds like 20 minutes, and during that time, and you can separate it to smaller chunks and then start building in seconds.
You can reduce it to, if it's now building 20 minutes, you can reduce it to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, easily. Michael, your question, please.
Yeah, there was a slide with, I have a picture here with some people with guns.
Yes.
And you had at the top, you had text, could you switch back?
Yeah. So what
But I wonder, since I know you, how can you squeeze the font? Why don't you keep the ratio of the text?
He never does. It's his thing. It's his thing. He never
like
does.
every
He
slide.
yes, every slide.
I tried my best
It looks
to
better.
rescue it, but it was just not fitting, and I wanted the soldiers to be full and say, yeah, that text is not that important, and the Schwarzenegger face is, you know.
Space over beauty.
Just
I get it.
anytime you guys go to the conference, if you see a slide without a speaker or even don't hear anyone talking, if you see a specific slide with the ratio, you will know that it's Adrian's slide. Literally.
I have problems in seeing it. When they tell me this is not looking good, say, maybe okay, maybe little, but.
What is your most favorite feature from NX?
Incremental builds and buildable libraries, and that mindset to actually create atomic libraries. And actually, I love refactoring. Even when the code base is crazy, I like refactoring and moving like big chunks of code to smaller libraries, think what are relations between them, detangling the code space. So this one, and the second one will be, yeah, that is enough, yes. This is the first one, and the last one also. Yes?
Simple question, does NX support any versioning of, for example, libraries?
Yes, but it makes no sense because you always have everything fresh. This is monorepo.
No, basically
No,
it
you mean
makes sense.
releasing,
Makes
like-
perfect
Yes.
sense.
Yes, of course. And this is very easy because you just use generator for a publishable library, and you just change the versions every publish.
And is it like obligatory, or I may, for example, postpone upgrading some library used by some application, let's say?
Yeah, it's not obligatory. You can do it whenever you want, but it may break somewhere later on.
Is your application in monorepo?
No. I mean, I've been asking, like, just because, for example, when it comes to the life cycle of some applications, there might be some applications that do not care of upgrading
Yes.
to the latest version of a library. And basically, if it's not a monorepo, that is good case for it, right? If it was a monorepo, any breaking change on the library would affect some necessary breaking changes of applications. Something like that. So it makes sense.
So NX has an NX release, they shipped it, I guess, 1.5 years ago or 2, and they replaced Lerna with it. You know Lerna. It's more like it's a tooling for a packaging repository where you have only npm packages, and they depend on each other. You have to release them in the right order. So this was like the best tool back then was Lerna, and the next fully rewrote it, and now NX is the best tool because it's 10x better than Lerna, and you can like wait for it, like you can decide when you release, right? But in a normal setup, whenever you push, everything that is affected just bumps the version based on the commit and releases.
If it's a required flag there set, if it's independent, then you can independently, no matter what affected dependencies you have, you can also independently release the libraries, let's say, that you want or don't want to bump in the versions.
Question.
Yeah, so Nx supports two different ways of versioning of dependencies: integrated-based repository and package-based repository. As I could saw on your presentation, you use integration-based dependencies. Why? And do you prefer integrated-based repository than package-based or package-based?
Actually, no, that was a small example. I was a little bit rushing the code, so but I don't know. I'm not sure. How could I answer you this question? Yeah, I prefer the default one, I think. I never deep dive in this topic, actually.
Okay. Do you have any experience with problem with updating any dependency in your monorepo because it breaks some of your libraries or apps?
Like that. Yes, I did with Angular material all the time.
Yeah, because when you have integrated based repository, you have like main package JSON with all your dependencies. In package base, you have separate package JSONs with every dependency of each other.
But you need them for buildable libraries. I could. Once I think we discussed that to put set versions on libraries, but at the end we thought that this have no sense because we always want to have the newest version of the code in monorepo.
Makes sense when you have library published somewhere in local repository and so on, and use it like external libraries.
Not only that.
It depends, I think, also on the structure of what you have actually monorepo within the teams that handle those applicational libraries that you have. Because sometimes if you work independently within those teams and they didn't work in one, like let's say sphere
that's one of the reasons.
that is one reason
The
why
second
you
one,
could
you can have a grown-up app.
Mhm.
Like you don't want to touch for because of any reasons. Because it's grown up, it's maintained, and it works. You don't want to update, for example, React or Angular to the next version, but you want to update that in some other packages. Why Nx enforces integrated base repository like the main package version, and why most developers prefer that?
I was never thinking about that. I just took it from Nx. They say that this is good, so I'm using it. Actually, maybe our architect could elaborate a little bit. You were there, right?
No, you never know. I can answer that. So basically, when it comes to the buildable libraries, or when it comes to some kind of integrated packages, you are using the relative paths to utilize that, right? And you have to do that. If you want to switch on the external packages, you have to use the tsconfig aliases instead. And both kind of concepts got pros and cons. If you are using on CI environment, there is preferable to have buildable libraries because every single small piece is built independently, and you can catch some errors you would not be able to catch on runtime with integrated packages. When you are using some development mode, it's just more or less up to you. However, the difference is how Nx consumes your packages. So with build libs from source flag set to true, your Nx will build your package from the TypeScript code. If you are using external packages, it will use the pre-built artifacts that looks more or less similar to the npm packages you are downloading, right? So I don't know what's more preferable to the developers. It's more about what exactly do you need and how would you like to optimize your project. Because if it's like very fast enough, basically you can stick with the integrated packages. There's nothing that forces you to go to the incremental build. However, if you would like to, I don't know, reduce the memory usage, for example, on the CI/CD pipeline, it's more preferable to definitely use the external packages because each of the package will be built independently and will not gonna use the memory at all. I will talk about that on my during.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between full stack developer and Nx architect. I need to concentrate to understand what he's speaking about. So if you want to talk more about this topic, we have a short break, cigarette, beer, pissing, everything you want. In 15 minutes, we come back to advanced topic and advanced questions. There will be the time for them. Thank you.
it off. Welcome to this wonderful meetup. I'm not sure if you know, this is the very first NX meetup, internationally NX meetup worldwide, and in our solar system. I'm proud to be part of it, to be one of the first speakers. I'm really proud, actually, believe it or not. And yeah, I will have a lightning talk. It's a shorter one. Not as professional as Adrian wants, but it's about NX caching. I was sitting in the audience, so I did not see how many people raised their hand. How many used NX already? Okay, really a lot. I mean, we are on an NX meetup, it's okay. How many of you would say you understand how the caching works and the graph stuff? Half of them. Okay, cool. So, and yeah, I'm also like, yeah, kinda, but often like not. I'll try to give a quick overview of how NX caching works, why we have it, why it is really cool. It was one of the key features that they brought up, like right after all the orchestration and tooling, which was all open source. At some point they released caching and remote caching that was back then, like, I would call it a game changer, same as Angular JS, the first version. I'm not sure if you remember jQuery and that stuff, but like the first big thing technology-wise was Angular JS, and I believe NX was the first big thing when it comes to tooling and productivity tools in general. Let me introduce myself quickly. I don't have such a nice intro slide as Adrian, but I do my best. My name is Michael. I'm very happy to pay your beers and drinks the rest of the year, I believe. As far as I understand, it is like always here. So that is it's a cool thing that we do. Personally, besides running PushBased, I'm very interested in coding. I love TypeScript. I started with PHP, went into the, classic PHP. But back then, what should you do? There was only PHP and Java. So not a lot of choice. But at some point, jQuery came. I was hyped. I turned into this front-end area, and the last 3 years, I only code Node. Not even on the server side, or on the terminal. That's a funny shift, I would say. Besides that, I'm a performance nerd. I love it. I love everything that scales better. People is the hardest. Then there's code and build times. And today I will tackle a little bit of the build times. What problems do you have when you sit in front of your computer and you change a character of code? Maybe you have watch mode on, everything, like, because it is hot module reloading, instantly the new modules load. You get your update, right? That feels good. I'm not sure how many of you used hot module reloading ever. Nearly everyone. So, snappiness is a thing, and it gives you not only a good feeling as a developer, it also saves you a lot of money as a company, like really. And when you push your change to the CI pipeline, it is not as fast because there you don't have the watch mode on, and maybe you have not all other things built already, so it will take some time. And for me, that's the time to go for a coffee. Yeah? I push it, it's a little bit of a bigger project, and I know coffee time. The next 30 minutes, I'll do nothing. Don't you know that? No, of course you work for us, you don't know that. But I also don't know that, by the way. We too don't know that. But you know it. We don't know it. So that's a problem. And normally, like, I want to be honest. As a company owner, I hate it. People like Simon sit around, click on the button, go away for 45 minutes, like, yeah, what is my daughter doing? Oh, what did you play? How was the kindergarten? Like, getting back in the kitchen, snack, more coffee, getting back to the laptop. That's like, is your life?
Yeah, and the deploy failed.
And the what?
And the deploy failed.
And then the pipeline fails. And then you come back after 45 minutes and the pipeline fails. We are in a real life scenario, I would say. That's my real life at least. So besides the bullet points that are here, you know what I'm talking about. Stuff that takes time is not only costly for a company because you fucking don't care what the company pays, right? You want your salary every month, that's it. But the company cares a lot more than you. Even, I want to point out, your own vibe, your motivation, your productivity, and your overall life health, I would say, is dependent on fucking waiting in front of the computer for nothing. That's a real problem. So the problem is caused by large code bases, old build tools, yada yada yada. That makes it like in general slow. But then you have like the vast, these huge code bases that are like not really well organized. That means you just want to change this part of your application and you have to rebuild everything else. Everything in our small hobby project is maybe 5 minutes, but everything in a real big company is maybe 45 minutes. And that really, really makes a difference. So repetitive work, like you already built an application and now another task want to test it and you have to build it again. That's just like bad organization is one thing that makes it slow. And the last thing is like normally like the basic setup of a repository is you click the button and everything runs all the time. Like no matter what you did, just do everything again. And that makes the 45 minutes 1.5 hours approximately. So let me see what is on the next slide. And this is, yeah, I don't know the slides, so therefore I'm always surprised when I click on next. Yeah, Adrian made my slide deck, thanks by the way. This is the moment where we pull in Nx, and Adrian did a really nice introduction talk, and I want to quickly like pull out the building blocks. There are a couple of building blocks missing, but what you see and what you most probably are familiar with is all the logos of the tech stacks. You use one of them at least. So every tech stack that you use has a plugin, and they organize like how you generate your code, how you orchestrate your code, how you like integrate your code into that build tool. As one thing, you need that, you cannot get rid of it. Then you have the dev kit, okay, that is like a helper library. You have the Nx console that is like integrated in your IDEs. And you have Nx Cloud that is online that charts that stuff. But this is all like, I would say like supportive material. And in the bottom part here, Nx, you see one box, caching. That was as I mentioned, the first really game-changing feature of Nx. And until today, next to all the cool AI features and polygraph features that they have, I believe it is the quickest where you can land impact. Have a build pipeline, takes 45 minutes, install Nx, and the setup like is extremely easy. I don't want to say it just works, you know, because it never just works, but it nearly just works. It's like AI. It nearly works, you know. It's pretty good. It is very helpful. That's what I want to say. So, and then Nx focuses on, back then, making repositories faster, and nowadays it focuses a lot more on making repositories more smarter. So it means, of course, like the AI integration, but also the dependency graph, they enriched. Years ago, they were only focusing on one monorepository. Nowadays, they really have something that's called polygraphs, so they can graph your whole infrastructure, everything. Every single repository you have is connected to each other. And if something is connected to each other and they build up on each other, it would be cool if you understand every single step and only do the stuff that you really need to do, right? The longer the chain, the more you save when you don't execute everything, but really only the stuff that you need. Okay, what is the next thing? So, back to the cache. What is caching? I don't know. What do you believe is caching? What's the first thing that comes in your mind when I say caching?
Temporal storage. Temporal storage.
Temporal storage.
Memoization.
Memoization, I would say like browser HTTP requests. Very old, but it's caching. What is the browser cache doing when you refetch the same URL twice?
Saving time.
It saves time, yes. How? How does it save that time?
You don't need to wait.
You just have everything in memory or in your machine already. So you don't resend, you don't do the round trips, you just keep everything in your memory and you don't ever like leave your machine. That's one part. In Nx caching is really focusing, it's focusing on the same thing, but a little bit more centralized on the repository infrastructure. So it basically understands not if you send an HTTP request and you get a result that you want to cache, but it focuses on packages in a repository, and packages have different tasks, and tasks have different output. A task is a request, and an output is the request result, if you want to do the memory hook. What could be a task in your repository? A build task is most probably the easiest to understand. You hit build, and at some point, an artifact, another file, a JavaScript file, spits out, lives in your code, in your file base. And this is the stuff that you will execute, right? That you will use. So that is the build output, that is the block, the data that is cached. That is the focus of Nx in general. I have highlighted here saving the results of tasks, reusing them so you don't execute it twice. When you have the HTTP request already in your browser's memory, you don't send it a second time, that's clear. But I believe the most important stuff for all of us is skip work, right? And I really mean it. No, I don't mean it like that, but I think it's funny, and skip work safely is even better, because maybe it's like it sounds like you try to don't work and nobody sees it. I don't know. It's funny. It's a funny metaphor, I would say, but it's irrelevant. How does the whole thing work really? You have a task. Look at it as a function, a pure function, and if you give a pure function the same input, 2 and 2, and the function is called add, there will be the same output whenever you give the same input. It's a pure function. And the same concept is leveraged here with caching. With caching, the output of your function that is called the build task. This function is a little bit more complicated, right? Your build task, of course, has some real input parameters, that is maybe the build command or the build arguments that you put, but there is a little bit more to it, because you import stuff, you have dependencies that are implicit, explicit, and so on. So that thing is a little bit more complicated, but still the same principle goes for pure functions. The same input produces the same output. If you execute a build, what should you cache from a build? Before I dived deep into that topic, I was like, yeah, just cache the build output, the build artifact. That's what I need. I only need the JavaScript. Please give me that and nothing else. Why should you care about anything else? Well, it turns out the build output is, when you are on the happy path, the best thing you can get. This is what you need. You don't need anything else. If you ever have a problem, if you ever want to look up the history, you need a little bit more context to your task. So Nx said, other tools maybe only cache the real hard build artifacts, the files, but we want to support our users a little bit more. We also cache the terminal output. So when you rerun your build, you will get the identical same terminal output as you would have get when you run it the first time. And in German, there is really a word. In German, we not only have same, we have like two words for same, right? We have same, and then we have same equal. So it will really spit out the same build and the same terminal output as before. It doesn't look like the one before, it is the one from before. That helps you to really deterministically debug everything and have, I would say, like the necessary context for a developer or for nowadays AI, right? If you cannot give any context, everything is very hard to achieve for AI and also for us. So that is the terminal output that they cache. And the third thing that they cache is hashes. So whenever you change a file and you want to figure out if the file has changed as before, or if you have a build output and you want to quickly figure out if it has changed from this run to the next run, you hash it. Why you hash it? Because your build output could be not only one file or not only one, one line, but it could be the terminal output and a million of files. So what you do to have like a one key thing, you put everything together, hash it, and then you have this one key that you can reference. And that is, I would say, the core of the caching mechanism when it comes to local caching. I have this diagram that elaborates it a little bit more so that you see how complex it is. It's not only a pure function, it's really like the files that you use, it is the command that you run, the command arguments that you run. Then imagine you run this and that command on a different machine. And on that machine, your node version, NPM version, or even operating system is different. And I know it's rare, nowadays it's rare. A couple of years ago it was not so rare, but if you switch from Mac to Windows, whatever, there can be significant differences and it's very hard to spot them. So they will respect everything and you have a very hard time to miscache or let's say misinterpret what is a unit of work, what is the input and what is the output. So they really considered, I would say, a holistic view of a task and what they should cache. This is my favorite slide because it was a very long sentence. I'm like, wow, I need big font. So I increased the font size, then it like looked ugly, and then I was starting to delete words. And this is what I ended up in. Where is cache? And I guess it's perfect for the Polish meetup, right? Our English, you will understand it. Where is cache? All good. No, it was just, I was giggling alone at home when I made that slide. So, sorry. So caching, you know what caching is now, right? I can do that locally on my machine. I run something, I have the input, I put that input in my key value store and I have the output and I put the output in my key value store and boom, I have caching. That's what Nx does. And I rerun the task locally and it comes from the cache. It saves like hundreds of hours of time. My friend over there, Simon, he is also in the same project and we code on the same PR. And when he checks out my PR, and the PR is a big one, like I touched 700 projects, he has to rebuild everything again. And he hated me for that a lot because I'm like, hey, Simon, please check my code quickly. And he's like, quickly? Let me go for lunch, pick up my daughter from the kindergarten, read a book, and then I come back and see what your task is doing. So, and that was reality before Nx. So what they did is they said, okay, if I know all of that, right? If I really know all of that plus more, because this is a really reduced version, I could assume that if my friend over there, Simon, is pulling my PR and executes it in his environment, and by accident, his environment is very similar to my environment, he could just get it from the cache. So he will check out my PR, and he will not wait 1.5 hours and has time with his daughter. No, he will have to work because it takes 5 minutes. So remote caching is basically just the server hanging around somewhere and helping us to move the thing, the output of the work that I did on my machine, on a centralized place where everyone else can grab it. You can grab it, you can grab it. I could execute it on my phone, but my phone has a different runtime, so it will not cache. But it could work if there was the same runtime. So that's caching remote and local. Here, another small diagram. This is my machine in red, Simon's machine in blue. I make a commit, send it to the server. I don't send it to the server. I run the build, it gets cached and sent to the server automatically because we don't work nowadays. It happens, you know, it just happens. And Simon gets it just like that. He doesn't even say pull, he just say run build, and it is there. That was the main feature, and until today, a game changer, I would say, for your development process. And the setup is 0 minutes. Like, I mean, setting up an Nx is really quick. If you have that done, the caching is already present. What's next? Okay, cache hit and cache miss. I can cache stuff, and I rerun the same function, and I would assume the output is the same, and maybe in my output is the timestamp. Could be. So if I run it a second time, my timestamp is different, would be a different output. Maybe I change a file, but the caches are configured incorrectly, and my project is not in knowledge that it also depends on the file that I change, so it will do nothing. I will change a file, let's say mock files. I have a testing folder. In my testing folder are mock files. The mock files are ugly, big JSON files. I'm like, oh, the linter should not touch it. I don't want to really like have it included a lot in my code base. I also don't really make it build, you know, I just have it lying around there. If I would change that file, no one would know that it's related to my build, and it would do nothing, right? So I can have a misconfigured cache. I can have dependencies that I did not configure, and then I change the dependencies, and then my cache is not rebuilding, but it is returning the cached result even if I changed something. That's one of the versions where you can have a cache miss. A cache hit I explained before. You do the same work twice and you just repeat it. That's the positive part. For cache misses, there are a couple of different things that you can do. I have a very limited set of demos, or at least like code snippets that I can show you. But there I can demonstrate what a cache miss is, and how you could like reproduce that. But those are the two things that you should know. You can have a cache hit, you can have a cache miss. And we are coming to the last part of the theory of this talk about caching. And before I wrap it up, I open up my coding editor. I will bring my microphone here. So, here's my coding editor. Okay. So the last thing that I said was cache hit, right? So I have a build process. Let me open that up. I have a build process, and my build process is creating a report under a specific file, a very complicated report. Let me quickly check it out. That's my report. It's very complicated. It has the status OK, and it has 42 items. And when I run that script, I see the terminal output, and I see the file, the artifact. This here, the txt file, is my build artifact. So I will delete my build artifact, and I will rerun the same task again, and it says that it's taken the work from the cache, and when I go here, oops, the file is here again. So that task was not executed a second time. It's maybe a really bad example because there's no timeout in. Let me quickly understand if I can delay that task.
It was even faster first time.
Come again?
It was even faster first time.
Oh, both of them are from cache.
Oh, okay.
I can run it without cache. And we can see how long it takes. It takes like 100 milliseconds instead of 30. No, yeah. I could add a delay, but only from looking at the comments we see it's coming from cache or not. So that's what I explained as a cache miss and cache hit. Let me now dive into more code and talk a little bit how you can configure that. So in a function, in a pure function, you have parameters that you put in. You have parameter A, parameter B, and the first one is 2, and the second one is 2, and the output is 4. In Nx, your inputs, I showed you before the diagram, is mostly files. That is what you really should know. And then what you also really should know about your build environment. So files is easy. I can define an input, right, that is named production. And in my production input, I can put in everything. So default plus not my spec files. So I put in all the source files, every TS file basically, and then I remove all my test files from it. This is the very super basic setup of any cache. You have something that is always present, like your whole project folder, and then for the build task, you only want to have the stuff that ends up in your NPM package. For the testing task, you only want to have files that are related to your source code, of course, and also to your test files. So for every different thing, you can set up a input name. This is the very basic one. And then you can define a summary. You say like, every task will by default get my default. And if it's a build one, I will give it the production. And then I basically define what different files are running into this task. Another thing that you really need to consider is your environment. And here I have configured another named input that is called shared globals. And in that shared globals, I have two runtime parameters. One's my node version, second my NPM version. You can also put your Java version, your Go version, whatever. Whenever you install a new node version, my build will rebuild, it will throw away the cache, and it will rebuild from scratch. It will get invalidated by my environment, not by my file system. That's a real difference. And for everyone that had a caching bug with other technologies than Nx, which is hell, you will really like this option, because you can not only define that stuff, you can say it's a shared global. Every single task runs on Node, so every single task should depend on this one input. Same with other stuff. So I covered runtime, output I call it, because it's not runtime variables. And I already covered shared globals. What else can we do? Now we get, it's a very condensed talk, so I jump from very basic to very advanced. Now we get a little bit more advanced. I have an external dependency. For example, Chitty. How many of you know Chitty? 2. How many of you know TSX? Everyone. Yeah. So Chitty is, or I don't even know if I pronounce it correctly. Maybe it's called GD or so. I don't know. I call it Chitty. So Chitty is the runtime version of TSX. It's a package. I depend on the package. External dependency means I depend on this package. If the package version or any fucking single character in this package changes that I consume, I invalidate my cache. Very cool. One level more advanced. I work in a bigger company. I have a Mac because I'm cool. Simon is not cool, works on Windows. Problem. Why is that a problem? Not because of also because of Windows, but not only, there's more. I executed stuff on my machine, everything passes, I have node, and I have NPM, but I'm on a Mac. Simon has the same node and the same NPM version, but he's on a Windows. Different thing. He would produce a build because his machine is old, slow, and has a bug. But he didn't realize that he has a bug because he used my cached version. Because I executed it already with the same input on the same node version, on the same NPM version. So he will get the cached version, and that's not good. That's a cache miss. So what can we do? Let's put into our, where's my mouse? Let's put into our caching setup the operating system. And let's make a log that logs the operating system. And with this one line, Simon, luckily, will not pull my cache, but will re-execute it on his Windows machine because different operating system. Only that two tricks that I showed you now saved millions in real life, in banks, in Apollo 11 missions, in whatever. Like that problems that we discussed, the two problems that we discussed here, I would say is the biggest vast majority. And it's also a little bit more advanced. What else do we have? Let me look at my code. Okay, dependent task output. I make a report. And another task, the reporter report, that gathers many reports to one report, is depending on the first one that is called report 1 maybe. I could say whenever the output of my report 1 changes, invalidate the cache of report gatherer task. So I can say dependent task output file, and I could like glob it. And that is one of the last examples that I have here. So I go down and I have my build task and my test task, and I can now show you how to configure that. So all the different input snippets, all the different parameters for my function, I can now take and put in a real function. My real function is called test, and the input parameters in my real function is this one single input parameter that is most probably not correct. It's this one. It's default, and I have to go and scroll up here. What is default? Default is all the project. So that's the parameter of my input function. And then when my target produces an output, that is the last thing that I want to show. When my target, my function, produces an output with all the inputs from my dependent task, with all the inputs that I created. I forgot one more. I will tell you in a second. It also will output stuff. So a function, a pure function, takes some parameters and outputs stuff. I can define here. I define a folder. What I prefer, because I like it to be like really fine-grained, I define only the files that I need to cache. So if my testing output, right, would produce the lcoff file with my test coverage and also the HTML files, I will not put the whole coverage folder. I will only put the lcoff, the only file that I want to cache, the only file that I want to keep in the cache. Otherwise, you get memory overload from the cache. Okay. One last thing. Security checks. That is a good example. I use a microphone. I see I scream loud enough for the room. That's good. You know NPM audit, I believe. And with NPM audit or with Yarn audit, you can understand what's the package situation at the moment in my project. How many packages are outdated, needs an update. How many packages have strong severity, like security issues, and I really need to upgrade them or even remove them. What happens if you run npm audit 2 times in a row? Tell me. Let's say 1 second after another. That's an easy answer. 1 second after another. What most probably will happen? Is the result the same as before?
Probably yes.
Probably yes. We don't know, we don't fully know, but most probably yes. What if I run it in a 2-day difference? Will it be the same output?
It depends.
It depends. It depends on the rest of the world. If I decide today, I publish a new version of my package because I'm drunk coding my nights until 4 in the morning and then I want to like YOLO it out, you know, you will download it maybe tomorrow. So you never know. So npm audit is nothing that is deterministic reproducible. npm audit is not a pure function. You cannot look at it as a pure function. So what do you do with that? How will you cache that pure function? Meh. 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 I was sitting, I'm like, okay, I cannot cache it. For sure, because I'm not stupid. Why should I cache it? You know, like every time it's different. And then I was looking at my build pipeline. I'm like, push like 4 commits in this one PR and it runs 4 times within 20 minutes. And I'm like, wow, what a waste of time. So I made a new cache input. And this is the last example that I want to show. It's time-based. So here I say, and it's very critical, don't play with it, but I say this cache input, and I can show you that. Let me show you that. I can take off microphone. Thank you, Simon. This is why you have crew members. They help you get through life. So, and I have time, and I will show you what I do here. I have to first invalidate the code base. Let's do that. First, I will put here something, okay? Run it once, generated. Run it twice from cache. Now I wait. 5. And if I run it again, not from cache.
Yes.
It normally should not get, okay, here, input time, no. That should work. That's a live bug. Normally, I would see every 5 seconds a new version. I will test it now because I don't believe it. Oh man.
Do you have a valid JSON?
Cache.
I think you're missing one closure. Like build starts with the closure, there is one word and the closing of that.
Build?
Build.
Yeah.
The lower one. No, okay, sorry.
You wanted to blame me? Make me look stupid for everyone here? And then it's not true? Are you sure? Okay. No, I made myself look stupid. My demo is not working, but this time-based thing basically helps me to have very specific tasks that I know very well and I understand very well, and I want to cache them on a specific time window because I know every single run will be different, but it's not so critical for me that I have to have it every single time. npm audit for our projects is good enough every hour, every day. That's the rate that we use. And when I moved in the time-based caching thing, we saved already 2 hours runtime a day by just not executing npm audit. So I guess that's a nice ramp up. Saving time with small tricks is a good thing. I go back, I open up my slideshow again for you. I want to ramp it up and I want to say Nx is really cool. I'm very happy to pay your beers. What else is written here? Fast feedback loops. happier developers, lower infrastructure costs, safe work, skip work safely. That's it. Thank you. You can have questions if you like. I believe we are in time. If not, Adrian will tell us.
We are in time for questions.
How many of you ever configured a cache in Nx? One person. So I'm not so surprised anymore because everyone that raised their hand from using Nx is now like half as good as before. You have to understand caching. That's key. Any caching? Yeah.
Is it possible to poison the cache?
Yes. Of course. The ugly slide with cache hit, cache miss is, I would say, the topic. My example with, actually my example with Simon's Windows machine and my Mac machine, I poisoned the cache, but I did it very indirectly. I did it with my infrastructure, with my operating system input. But you can poison the cache also with, I would say, more direct things. But that was like a real life explanation of how you could poison it. Another thing, cache poison is not always something that you have in, but maybe that you miss. So missing inputs would cause a false cache hit. And that is poison in the cache system, right? False stuff, whatever it is, that produces a cache miss is a poison. And if the stuff is a missing stuff, still it's something. And that's will also produce a cache miss. Was it a kind of an answer? How did you poison your cache?
I don't.
You don't? Yeah.
We've got a real example in the project where we stored our styles in the separate project, and then we rebuild another project, and once we rebuild this project, we still got the old files. So
missing inputs, missing inputs. Yeah.
In the project configuration.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like poison is not always something that you have in, but maybe also something that you don't have in, right?
Okay, so by the poison the cache, can I install,
Unpoison
let's say, crypto miner on some PCs, on some Windows?
Aha. So what you're asking is, can I sneak in malware in other machines over the cache?
Yes.
So.
Especially when I use the remote cache for
Yes.
the whole company.
Yes. So the remote cache in combination with public repositories is a nice vector. That is very true what you say. It's a very good question to tackle. I'm rolling that out from a perspective where you have access to good documentation and know what you do, or maybe you don't know what you do, but you at least read the docs from Nx and how to set it up. They will tell you for GitLab, GitHub, whatever, what's most important to do to not give other people access to your remote cache, right? Because normally only the people in your team should have access.
Okay, but I want to install that malware on PCs of my colleagues from team because I don't like them and the company doesn't pay me enough.
Companies never pay you enough.
Yes, is it possible?
So what the remote cache does is it downloads bytes and saves it into your file system actually. And I believe, what I do now in my head is I just walk the full entrance vector. And I believe if the thing is saved in your local file system, they will not allow to execute that stuff. They will only read it. Why should they execute it? So I believe that is not the best. That is one good vector where you could try, but not the best. How I would, and now I'm thinking how I would hack the whole system nowadays. Actually, I don't know. They had like, I know of a couple of security issues. I'm very interested in the topic. Nx had one bigger security incident last year, where a third-party package, got infected. They installed it, and then they published the MCP, and the MCP is installed on every reboot of the IDE. So many people got, or not many, but I believe a handful of people got impacted by it. They solved it really quickly, but not because of technical infrastructure or smartness that they have. It was a very, very simple solution. Why it got fixed so extremely fast for NX? The dude that was still works there, the architect basically, was up at the time when it happened, jumped in his car, and was fucking 40 minutes later in the office pushing the fix. I'm not sure how, like, that was like pure human thing. But yeah. Actually, I would say the following. I can imagine ways to do that, but I would say I'm not skilled enough from a security perspective to give a professional graded answer to how could I hack NX with remote cache. How exactly, Because what I don't know is I could understand how I can sneak something in, but then I would not know how to execute it. But I'm not a hacker. I would know that if I'm a hacker, maybe. Other questions about caching. How many people drink coffee while build time? So it's plus 20 minutes wait time. Now, if there are no other questions, and it's okay for you, I would say like grab another beer on our behalf, and we are very happy to iterate with the event. See you.
and can answer even the trickiest questions you have. So
No way.
be prepared at the end. Jarek is also great dancer and a happy father.
Yes. Correct. Thank you so much.
Jarek will ruffle dresses. I don't know what we have, but some of the stuff you have to ruffle after your talk.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll introduce myself. There is somewhere the slides in between where there's this section about me. So, but first, let me say I'm really happy to be here, and today we are going to talk a little bit about monorepos, right? This is why we are all here, specifically Nx. So, you've already shown who used Nx. You are maybe wondering if it's worth the effort. So today, what I really would like to share with you is actually how Nx works under the hood and why its architecture makes such a big difference when you are dealing with monorepos. So hopefully some questions that have been addressed in the previous talks will address through my talk as well. So for those who did not use Nx at all, what Nx really is, it's basically a build system and development platform that helps you manage monorepos. So the size doesn't really matter. You can use Nx in very small projects as well as on this large-scale application. The official Nx docs define Nx as technology agnostic build platform, which means it doesn't really care if you are using Angular, React, or whatever technology, even some backend technologies like Java or .NET. And the real win with Nx is that it helps you get from writing the code to the green merge request very fast. So when your code grows and your kind of team grows within it, your productivity bottlenecks multiply, and Nx addresses this through its graph-based architecture, smart caching, and buildable libraries, incremental build. These are not the only features that Nx provide, but we would spend here like a week trying to deep dive into each of every tool and feature. So let me limit my talk only to these three. But hopefully, once we understand the core, we'll be able to understand everything else. But before we'll dive deep into the source code of Nx, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Jarek. I've been working with JavaScript since I remember, I would say 18, 19 years or something like that. I am the Angular GDE, trying to be active in the community as much as I can. Not always have a time, but yeah, at least trying basically. I'm kind of fascinating of the front end, how things works under the hood, trying to debug every bit. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach me out. You can find me on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn or in person. Basically, I'm from Wrocław, so don't have like far away. So let me start with explaining maybe how Nx thinks differently about monorepos than the traditional build tools. So the traditional build tools treats every project like we have project A, project 1, project 2, project 3 as a separate isolated island basically. And each of these projects got their own things inside, including the definition how to build this project basically. So Nx flips this idea completely. So instead of isolated projects, Nx creates something that is called a project graph. So think of it like this. Each of these projects is a dot on a map, and the relationship between these dots are these lines connecting these projects. So it's not actually like the pretty diagram, it's not about that. It's more like how Nx understands your code base, and how Nx understand the dependencies, and how Nx use this knowledge to make some smart decision, including what needs to be built, what could be tested, what could be skipped. Right, so the key insights here is that at least in my opinion, understanding this relationship is as important as understanding the code base itself. So once Nx knows about everything, all these connectivities, all these relations, it can figure it out what's the affected pipeline, so what projects should be rebuilt once we'll change some piece of the code, or to determine the best order to run task, or maybe identify which parts of the code need some more attention. So what I really love in Nx is the fact it's modular. So we don't really need to grab everything at the beginning. We can just start with the core, then we can add more and more and more features once we need them, of course. So there is no huge barrier to entry. We can just start small and grow our setup as our needs grow. So let me dive a little bit deeper into this core package, because I do believe once we'll understand how this core works, it will help us to understand how the other features works as well. So when we are working with any workspace like NPM, PNPM, Yarn, or whatever, basically any build tool can run your script from the package JSON, right? It's not a big deal, basically. And Nx can do that as well. But Nx will do that with a complete awareness of how your projects relate to each other. And this is really important, because this awareness lets Nx optimize the task execution, the build execution, in a way that the traditional task runners just simply can't do. And hopefully I will prove that in the end. So let's talk a little bit about this awareness, because this is like the truly basis of how Nx works. And many people think of it like the way it's created just once and just sits there. Actually, it's a little bit more dynamic than that, basically. So every time you run the Nx command, there is this orchestration I'll show during the demo that is happening behind the scenes. Probably none of you just wondering how it's working, but it's very, very fascinating. Once we'll understand it, the mechanism will understand that it's not just like another build tool. So when we'll type something like Nx build my app, there is like the whole process that is kicking off, and let's try to understand what's going on when we'll start typing the Nx build my app. So for that, let me quickly use the Nx repository, and I will walk through the source code of the Nx, trying to explain what will happen when we'll run the Nx build my app command. So the mentioned process starts in the run command method, and it's not just like run the build method. It's more like first figure it out what's going on in your workspace and then run the build intelligently, basically, right? So the first thing it does, it calls run command for task method, which is where the real world starts. So one of the piece of this run command for task is the ensure workspace is in sync and get graphs. And this is where Nx basically says, hey, hold on, let me figure it out if I understand everything what's going on. So, you know, it's checking if anything has changed since the last time when it looks. If it finds something, it's just updating, rebuilding the dependency graph. So it's not just one-time thing. Nx will constantly try to be up to date with the state and you know, in sync, trying to have like our workspace fresh. Now, yes. Now, once we'll have this solid understanding about all this relationship, it moves to this method, create task graph and run validation. And here things gets really interesting because Nx doesn't really think about projects anymore. It starts thinking about the tasks. So it grabs this dependency of the projects and transform it into the task project. So the actual task creation happened in, here it is, happened in the create task graph method, and this is where Nx shows it's really intelligent and smart. So in this create task graph, we have this new process task instance. And here is, this is like, just by the way, a little bit boring name for such a crucial method or class, but this is like the brain of the whole operation. So it takes our command like build my app and figure out what task need to be done to make it possible, right? So we can see the one line below, there is this process task method call based on this instance. And in this process task, because this is the fragment of the process task method, there is this methodical approach where Nx goes through each task and call the process task of every single task, asking, hey, what this task actually depends on. So it creates like this relationship and awareness of what's your dependency. And when it comes to analyzing these dependencies, for analyzing these dependencies, it calls this getDependencyConfig method where Nx grabs your configuration and identify all different dependencies, not only these obvious ones, but actually, you know, all the dependencies, meaning dependencies of the dependencies of the dependencies, and so on. And what's really clever is how Nx connects this all together, basically. So the project graph can tell you project A depends on the shared lib. However, the task graph is a little bit more specific. So the task graph tells you to build project A, first I need to build shared lib. And in the end, based on this awareness, Nx kind of transform this knowledge into a very specific execution plan. Now, let me get back to my presentation. Right? So this whole process happens every time when we run this command, basically. And what makes Nx really smart is this knowledge about how different projects are connected all together. So When we'll add a new dependency, Nx will automatically take it into the consideration when we will run Nx graph. If we'll change anything in the configuration, Nx also will pick it up automatically. Now, that's weird. I will. Okay, not sure why this slide is empty. However, there should be like a project graph after running the Nx graph, which is, yeah, poisoned cache. But yeah, like I see, like not sure why it's not displayed. I'm sorry. But when we'll take a look at the Nx graph later on, and it's pretty cool to explore. So I will show the effect of running Nx graph. But this is just the results of all this orchestration we walked through, right? So the Nx graph is used to enable some different Nx features, like identify the affected pipelines, like determine what's the best order to run the task, or we can use this dependencies graph to understand project relationship a little bit more, or to even analyze some different impacts. So what will happen when we change some different files? Yes, the next slide exists, so fixed. So let's talk a little bit about caching. So Michael done a really great introduction, and I will cover many things he did mention, but from like how it's working under the hood. So yeah, if you'll have any additional questions to Michael's talk, please address them after. So what's really fascinating for me when it comes to the Nx cache is it's not just like a typical cache mechanism. It's not just serving you a files that, or saving you a files that you will reuse later. It's like way more sophisticated than that. So it's understanding your entire workspace on a very deep level. So let me walk you through the implementation details of this mechanism. And let's start with the task hasher. Here it is. Right. So Michael talked a little bit about the hashing. So there is this task hasher class, and this task hasher class defines this get inputs method, and this get inputs methods do some really serious detective work for us. So it's analyzing what Nx calls depth inputs, self inputs, depth outputs, and project inputs. This means it understands not just the fact that cache is invalid, but having all these informations, it understands why the cache is invalid, right? And the hash calculation itself happens in the, where am I? Here. Happens in the hash task method. And this is where things get really interesting, because it creates something that is called a partial hash. So we can see the returning value of hash task method is promise of partial hash. What is partial hash? Well, partial hash is an interface that stores the value of the hash, but additionally, it also stores all the details about your hash. So, you know, this is what Michael exactly described when you have a cache hit, you have exactly the same experience as you would run the task. So you have all the outputs in the terminal ordered and executed and displayed in exact the same way as without this cache hit. So yeah, thanks to all these details, Nx knows not just the cache is invalid but also, like I said, why it's invalid. Now, when it comes to storing the cache, Nx got two different implementations, the deprecated one and the new one. So dbcache is this new class, and the cache class, which is annotated as deprecated, which is an older cache class to store the cache, basically. What's really important is switching between these two is no drama, basically. So both follows the same interface, and we can just clearly, pretty straightforward, use both. Now, here's where things get fun. So when we need something to grab from the cache, it's like first checking if I have my money in my pocket before going to the store, right? So I'm checking if I have my wallet, if I have my money. If yes, then boom, it's done. Basically, there's no task execution. You've got your results, and you don't have to do anything else. If your cache is found locally, the remote flag is set to false. However, this is not always, that optimistic scenario. So if your local cache is not found, then it's like calling Joanna, for example, to borrow the money before I'll go to the store, right? And if I'll call my colleague to borrow me my money, then I'm calling the remote cache.retrieve, and I got my money from the remote cache. And what's really important is that it's not just used once. So once we'll find the data, the artifacts in our cache, remote cache, Nx save those data using the apply remote cache results method here. And this method saves those data for local cache to be reused once we'll request them again. So it's so smart that it limits us, or it helping us to find always things locally. If not, then we are calling the remote server, and if it's not get in the remote server, then we are actually rebuilding things from this from scratch. Now, let's flip this a little bit around, so we know how Nx gets the data. Now let's walk through the saving the data into the cache. So there is this put method, and this put method is like making a snapshot of everything. Everything, when I'm saying everything, I really mean everything, because if you'll take a look, the arguments of that put method, it's taking a hash, it's taking a terminal output, it's taking the output files, even it's taking the exit code, right, from the terminal. So once we'll have this cache hit, we have exact the same experience as we would not have this cache hit at all, basically. Where is it? Now, when it comes to the Nx, what I really love when it comes to the cache is this method getRemoteCache, because this method shows that Nx doesn't play any favorites when it comes to the cache providers, right? Here it is. So in this getRemoteCache method, it's like speed dating through different options. It's starting with Nx Cloud. Well, if it's not available, then cool, let's check S3. If no S3, then maybe Azure, GCS, or maybe we've got our own HTTP cache available, so we are not locked. The decision is on our side. Now, there is more, basically. So I did say about orchestration, all of these things. So there is this class task orchestrator, which organizes things in a very smart way. So Nx shows here that it's not only smart, but also really efficient. So when we're restoring a cache results, it doesn't just blindly copy everything from the cache. In this apply cache results method, we have this flag should copy outputs from cache, which determines actually if should we actually make a copy of this file. So this is very efficient, and if this flag is set to false, it means that there are already artifacts stored in our local cache, so there's no need to make any copy. And the way all this waves into the task execution, well, there is this before run phase where we are calling apply cache results. So first, before executing the task, we are checking if there's some artifacts, pre-made, distributed artifacts stored into the cache, determine if we should just restore them or not. If we've got a local cache, then we are done. If not, then we are asking remote cache.retrieve. If there's no anything in the remote cache, then we are running run batch method, which is actually something that run our task. And in the end, when we'll have all the outputs from the task execution, just in case we are executing this cache.put method, which stores the results into the cache again. So the next time we'll execute exactly the same command, there will be again a local cache hit. All right. The performance impact is real because on every step, Nx checks, it's not about how to avoid different repeated computation. It's more about understanding the project relationship and use this knowledge to make very smart decision about what could be skipped entirely, what can be cached, what needs to be invalidated, how to restore cache results efficiently. Sorry. Right. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about not completely separated topic, but something that was touched by Adrian, and let's talk about the incremental build. And the incremental build utilizes the graph generation and utilize the cache mechanism to make it work such an efficient. So think of it like this. Instead of maybe cooking the entire dish every single time from scratch, we are using the leftovers really smartly, right? So Nx figures out what actually changed, what needs to be rebuilt, and do absolute minimum work to get it done. And maybe you are thinking that minimum work doesn't really, or sounds like a lazy, but I would say in Nx world it's called efficiency. So when we are taking a look into the project graph, we can see that project A depends on project B. When we are taking, from the other hand, on the task graph, we are seeing that to build project A, first we need to build project B, which is natural, like you can't really eat a cake before you will bake it, most probably. And here's the golden rule. Buildable libraries can depend only on another buildable libraries, which makes sense because if we have some dependencies that does not have any build target, we don't have anything to build, so it's not treated as the task dependency, it's more treated as the project dependency. What makes some buildable libraries special? Well, it allows this incremental build feature, that first point, but when we build actually the library, it produces a distributable artifacts that store transpiled TypeScript code, type definitions, maybe sometimes manifest, or the bundle code basically, and store these results into the cache. So it's very similar to what we see when we are installing the npm packages. We are downloading only the already built code. So the other projects that needs this particular pre-built projects, the consumers can use these pre-built artifacts instead of rebuilding them from scratch. Now, the incremental build strategy needs this caret symbol. It's like saying build all the dependencies first, then build me. Very simple but really powerful. And here is where it gets really smart. So if something, or if the dependency has been changed, it's just rebuilding it, constantly asking what's the minimum work to do to make it work. If the dependency is not changed, then it's asking, why should I rebuild that, right? I have these artifacts already into the cache, so instead of rebuilding, I should just download it from the cache. Now, let's talk a little bit about numbers, because this is also a really important thing. So I have prepared a very small project, however, with and without incremental build enabled. So here we can see results of building this project without incremental build. And we can see the whole project is built as one piece. So there is no buildable libraries, there is no task dependencies. What's pros, what's the cons? Definitely the consequences, negative consequences, is that whatever will change tiny piece in this bigger project, maybe the entire project will need to be rebuilt, right? Because this is just one piece. And in this particular case, everything took 21 seconds. Pretty fast, right? But remember, that was a very small project. However, the same project with incremental build enabled. So on the top, we can see the same project to utilize the buildable libraries, and it looks a little bit different. So we can see these building blocks. Each represents the buildable library, and each represents the project with the ng package JSON, and project.json within the defined build target. Now, you can also see that first all the dependencies are built, and then project is built after, right? So we are using this caret build to make it work Now, for the first run, the entire build took 19 seconds. Pretty fast, but you know, only 2 seconds difference, so what's the point? However, if we change one tiny thing in the dependency, we can see on the bottom that only this dependency has been rebuilt and the application itself, but all the other dependencies are retrieved from the cache, which is improved, which is huge improved because the second build took 7 seconds, which is 3 times faster, right? Additionally, we can see compared to the state without incremental build that we have this parallelism, right? So we have this parallelism control via the -- parallel flag, and we can increase amount of different threads that are executed independently. I would say use the parallel amount the same as the amount of the core in your CPUs, then you'll have this guarantee each of the thread will be compiled separately. Right, you're probably thinking, okay, I want this, how should I turn this on? And there are 3 things you should keep remembering. First, use the buildable library, because buildable library can depend only on another buildable library. Second, use this carrot build to tell Nx, hey, please build the dependencies first and then build the project. And third, last but not least, build libs from source flag should be set to false to let Nx know, hey, don't compile the TypeScript files, but rather try to build things or try to utilize things from the cache. Try to utilize things from the cache if there are some pre-made distributed artifacts. Right, let's make some demo. Enough of talking. So yeah, time to get our hands a little bit dirty. I would like to show you a few things here, how the cache works, how the Nx graph work, and how the incremental build work. So, sorry. Let me quickly. Where is it? Oh. Right. Let me quickly walk you through the project I have prepared. So that was our missed slide with this invisible invisible slide. So I wanted to show you this Nx graph. So this is the project I have prepared. It contains like some amount of different projects. Projects means every single folder within a project.json file. So we can see here a project graph. However, we can change the context to the task graph. And in this task graph, we can see a one build target that is executes, that when executes, it builds the entire application. So let's try to enable the incremental build first. To enable incremental build first, I need some buildable libraries. So let me create 2 buildable libraries, Nx Angular lib. Let's call it logger1. Oh, lib, yes, sorry. Logger1 directory will be libs shared utils loggers, whatever, and import path would be nx demo logger1. Let's see. Hopefully I did not miss anything. This import path flag tells what should be put into the tsconfig aliases. So this is just the alias that will be mapped into our buildable library. Yes, there is a typo. Sorry. Great. We have generated the buildable library inside the libs. Oh, there is another typo, but whatever. Basically, let's create another buildable library here. The same folder. So right now, once we'll have the buildable libraries, let's take a look. Utils. Oh, utils LBS. Okay. Libs LBS. Here are the loggers. Great. I don't need the spec file, and instead of component, I would like to use some service like logger1 with a very complex method like log message, and just let's log the message. Oh, come on. Right. My keyboard is not working well. Let's fix log message, semicolon. Oh my goodness. Let's fix all the lint errors. All right. And let's just make it the same in the second logger. Now, what we'll see after we'll run the Nx graph, after created these two buildable projects. Someone knows? What should we expect?
Sorry, maybe I missed, but do you actually use them in your project?
Correct. So right now we'll see those two projects, but next to the all different projects, so they are not connected at all, right? Also, from the task perspective, we'll see the movies built and nothing else, because that will be the target that will be only used to build the entire application. So let's change it and let's import them into the projects. So I'll use, for instance, this logger one service, logger one service, and logger two service also. And somewhere in the tab, I'll say this logger1, log message, whatever, and the same for logger2. Now, I'm sorry, I did not import this. Now should be good. Now, when we'll change the graph, you'll see graph changes updated, right? Which is about, we don't really need to rerun things. It's only about change the files, and Nx will constantly do the work to keep the state up to date, all the workspace fresh. So when we'll run, when we'll take a look our projects right now.
They will not be standalone.
Yes, they are connected within the project we are importing, right? But what's even more important is that when we'll take a look the task graph, there's nothing here. Why? Somebody knows? I don't know, right? So there is. So we have created a buildable libraries, but we said that to enable incremental build, we need to make 2 more steps. First, we have to add the carrot build that says that let know Nx, hey, build my dependencies first and then build me. And we should set the build clips from source flag to false to not try to compile the TypeScript files. So let's do that. And in the project.json, we have this build clips from source flag. So we are changing it to false. Also depends on carrot build. And I need to wrap this with quotes. There it is. Okay. Now, when we'll run the Nx graph once again, from the project perspective, there will be no changes because these projects have been imported by the another projects. However, from the task perspective, we should see or not wait a second. Apps, movies, build, slips from source. Depends on carrot build. Weird. Let me try from different angles. So let me run the build. Right? And the build process should show us what's exactly built. So when we have incremental build enable, we should first build our dependencies and then we should build the application. And I see we are building the application only. So let me quickly try to fix this. Build, options, configuration, default. Yes, this is the target build. Depends on. Import things. Yeah, should work. Not sure why it's not working actually. It's like the the magic of the live demos, right? What things can go wrong during the live demo? Not really. Let me check. No. Build clips from source set to false depends on. Sorry, something that should work is not actually working, and I have tried out multiple times without bigger issues. Yeah, it's not working. Logger 1 service, logger 2. Build clips from source. Did I make any typo? No. Right?
If you use depends on, do you need to define the target on the libraries? Like the library need to have target build?
Yes, depends on. I should define the target name. However, let's check. Let's make this from a little bit different angle. So we have the target defaults. We have ng packager light. Depends on carrot build. And just Angular application, let's say, depends on carrot build. Yeah, that's the only thing I would like to show. No, it's not working, and I don't know actually why. We'll need to debug this a little bit more. So what I wanted to show you actually is after we set up the project configuration and specify the current build and the build clips from source, we'll first build our dependencies and then we'll build the application. That is how it should work, obviously, but I'm not really sure what happens and why it's not working. So yeah, let me finish on that. And the last slide I have is thank you slide. Hopefully you get some understanding how things work under the hood, and please keep remembering the best tool are the tools that makes you work faster but not really think harder. Thank you so much. Live demo.
Do you have some questions?
Yes, why it's not working?
I was pretty honest.
No. I probably know why it's not working. So, do you have any questions? I will fix that really immediately because I know what's the issue probably. Any questions? Lips shirt.
Do you have any questions? Please.
You have to have any questions. I have one question. The gentleman
Go ahead.
in the last row.
Thank you. Thank you for presentation.
I know what's the issue, just by the way, but yeah.
Okay, so let's imagine the context. You have an integrated monorepo with hundreds of packages, right? And the Nx graph is a really flat graph, which is only showing the connections between the projects basing on the imports, right?
Yes.
And that's like a bit not enough for modern humans, right? You are also interested in different flavors, in different layers. Like, I would like to see all the projects from those hundreds of projects which are having mocks on them. Also, I would like to see a different flavor, all the projects which are having the persistence layer there, or all the projects which has a connectivity, and etc. etc. We can have a lot of those layers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are opening this monorepo with these hundreds of packages, what would be your approach? How to try to build this layered graph?
So how to define different flavors on
different layers. Like we have one single graph essentially, and we would like to chop it on slices, on scoped slices. We, from off the top of my head, we can possibly use the tags on the project, right?
That was
we can put it, but we on the graph UI we cannot filter the graph by the tags, unfortunately.
we can't the graph command can be executed directly like Nx graph, or when we are executing the target like Nx built my app, we can add this -- graph flag to show how this command will be executed from the graph perspective. But we cannot really filter things in a command via tags, scopes, or types, basically. If there's a way to filter projects, what we can do, like we are limited only to what Nx allow us to do, which is to execute some different commands like Nx affected, right? And then when we'll add this -- graph.
Your laptop is acting on the gestures.
It's this cable.
Very modern laptop.
When we'll add to this command, to the Nx command a flag -- graph, it will show us how this will be reflected in the dependency graph. But as far as I know, there is no possibility to filter via tags, types. Michael?
It's not a question, it is an addition to the previous question. And I want to point out, so you have a project base, you have a well-tested project base. So if you have a well-tested project base, you also have testing libraries, right? Testing helpers, extend things where you can extend your testing library, your v-test, your chest, your whatever. And that points exactly back to the previous question. What I don't like at Nx at the moment is if I have a project and I want to build that project, I don't care about my test files and I don't care about my dependent test files, right? Like my testing helpers. I don't want to know about them. I just want to build, the production artifact of my app. If I want to do that in the current Nx setup, I will have to rebuild my testing utils.
Correct.
It's not like you could solve it with an answer, right? I just wanted to point out, if Nx would join, what's your name?
Alex.
Would join Alex's opinion
I guess they would have a major feature. They would add a major feature because they would basically cut all builds of all packages that are not production.
Yes. Yes, and this is not the only kind of developer experience. It also affected on the build execution, because in the end you'll have to consider this test library package and execute it, right? Which is not really necessarily to do when we are building our application, because test and build application are the two separated things. However, right now, like you said, Michael, it's something that we'll have to deal with. There is no any workaround to have it. And even if I've seen multiple projects where next to the package that contains like a business logic, we had like a test library that imports something from this package, and out of the box, the relationship is created, right? So it will be also reflected in the project graph as a separate project. And yeah, this is something that we'll not be able to fix, at least at this moment.
I have a follow-up question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. But now my brain starts to spinning. I can have fine-grained. So first, let's start with the problem. Nx is project-based, coarse-grained. I would say it's not fine-grained. It is like somewhere in the middle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If I would remove these project dependencies, or like, is there a way, like, how we could implement that problem in the future to solve it in Nx, to like get rid of test dependencies when I build something, or is this by design from Nx a very hard to solve problem?
Probably we can introduce some exclude flag or whatever, basically, when we'll put a project name from the project.json, the projects that we could potentially exclude from the graph generation. Right now, when we are typing any command like nx build or nx affected, all different projects that are calculated by Nx that should include into this build process or affected process are displayed without any filtering. But I think it's like probably like the easiest solution to introduce some kind of option that would be additional optional next to every single next Nx command, what need to be excluded, similar to something we see in the tsconfig or any kind of particular configurations, right, where we can specify things to include and things to exclude. But yeah, that's the kind of only solution which crossed my mind to solve this problem. Should not be that easy, should not be that hard, I would even say.
It's at least a tricky thing. Thanks for the elaboration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a global question. What's the best way if you have like a big Angular project which has a monolith? What's the best way to migrate it to Nx?
To migrate it to Nx, so there are different recommendations, not the one silver bullet, I would say. So when you don't have any Nx applied, so when you have like 5 different separated applications, let's say, right, written in Angular, and you would like to apply monorepo Nx to connect all these 5 applications and extract from all these applications some shared libraries. Nx team recommends here like build a project, build a library from scratch, and then move the whole source code from your application into the newly created library. There are some migrators as well, but it depends which use case you would like to use. If you have like one application, then there is this nx migrate command to that easily apply nx on it. However, if you have like multiple different, more complex situation, then I would not suggest to run the migration command, but rather step by step move your code into newly created fresh monorepo. At least this is how I would do that, because at every step we are moving our source code, we are able to check if it's actually working or not. But there's no kind of, I wouldn't say there's one way to do that based on the use case. So migrators are also a great things. But yeah, hopefully that addresses your question. Any other questions? Simon.
I have another one.
Yes, go ahead.
How much did you spend on the memes? That's a key question. That's a key question.
Not much.
So Adrian is advanced.
Yes. Thank you, Jarek, for your talk.
Thank
Big
you
applause
so much.
for Jarek, please, for the last speaker.
Go away from the thing, because your face is now you look beautiful.
Now we have a little raffle for